Battle of the Somme left behind not just stories of heroism and sacrifice, but also vast cemeteries that serve as lasting memorials to those who never returned home. One of these cemeteries is London Cemetery Extension in Longueval. Originally a small battlefield cemetery, it began in September 1916 when 47 soldiers of the 47th Division were buried in a shell hole after the fighting at High Wood. By the end of the war, it had grown significantly, as fallen soldiers from surrounding battlefields were brought here. Today, it is the third largest cemetery on the Somme, with 3,873 First World War burials, more than 3,000 of them unidentified. But this cemetery is not just a resting place for those who died in 1916. After World War II, the Army Graves Service used it again to reinter 165 soldiers, whose original graves could not be permanently maintained. One of these Second World War soldiers has a direct connection to the Somme, and today I'll be telling their incredible story. Alongside this, we'll also explore the lives of 3 men buried here, uncovering their experiences and sacrifices on the battlefields of the Great War. Join me as we step into history and remember those who rest here at London Cemetery and Extension. John William Keeling was born in 1892 in Old Whittington, Derbyshire. He was the son of Arthur and Emily Keeling. When war broke out, he answered the call of duty, enlisting in the 10th Battalion Sherwood Foresters, Notts and Derby Regiment. On the 29th of August 1915, Keeling and his battalion landed in France, joining the British Expeditionary Force on the Western Front. In the months that followed, the 10th Sherwood Foresters saw intense action, taking part in trench warfare, raids and defensive operations. They played a role in the Battle of Hohenzollern Redoubt in 1915, suffering heavy casualties. By 1916, they were deeply involved in preparations for the upcoming Somme offensive, conducting operations in and around Fricourt and Memetz. In August 1916, the 10th Sherwood Foresters found themselves engaged in fierce fighting around Delville Wood, an area that had become a blood-soaked battleground. On the 12th of August 1916, the battalion suffered 15 men killed in action, among them Private John William Keeling. He was just 24 years old, a name among many, but a sacrifice never forgotten. His family had the personal inscription added to his grave, R.I.P. George Greene was born in 1899 in Dublin, Ireland. Before enlisting, he worked as a house painter, building a future that would soon be interrupted. In February 1916, at just 16 years old, George attested for the British Army, falsely claiming to be 19 years and 4 months old, a common practice among young men eager to serve. He joined the 15th Battalion Royal Scots, a unit that would soon find itself in the heart of one of the most infamous battles of the First World War. By August 1916, the Battle of the Somme was raging, and on the 5th of August, George and his battalion were engaged in fierce operations around the Byzantine Liberty sector. Their orders were to clear and capture an enemy trench. That evening, the men advanced, launching an attack into no man's land, successfully seizing their objective. But the triumph was short-lived. Facing an overwhelming German counterattack, they were soon driven back, forced to relinquish the ground that they had fought so hard to take. During the brutal fighting, Private George Greene was killed in action. He was just 17 years old. Another young life lost, another name etched in history, his sacrifice forever remembered. William Furlonger Hall was born in 1910 in Alnwick, Northumberland, the son of Matthew Collingwood and Elizabeth Furlonger Hall. In 1935, he married Annie Strachan Hendry, and together they had 3 children. building a life that would soon be disrupted by war. Before World War II, Hall had already served 7.5 years in the Northumberland Fusiliers as a drummer, a role that would take him as far as Jamaica before he left the regiment and returned to civilian life. He found work at the Swollen Trust Brickworks in Whittingham, settling into a routine of family and labour. However, when war broke out in 1939, Hall was recalled to duty, joining the 7th Battalion Royal Northumberland Fusiliers. At the time, the battalion was reorganised as a machine gun battalion under Northern Command. By October 1939, it was deployed to France as part of the British Expeditionary Force and attached to the 51st Highland Infantry Division, initially positioned along the Maginot Line. During the Battle of Dunkirk from the 26th of May to the 4th of June 1940, British and Allied forces fought desperate rearguard action to defend the shrinking perimeter while executing one of the most remarkable evacuations in military history. It was during this period that Lance Sergeant William Furlonger Hall was wounded. On June 5, 1940, he succumbed to his wounds at the age of 30. In a final letter home, Hall shared a heartfelt wish. He planned to visit the grave of his uncle, Vincent Furlonger, who had fallen during the Battle of the Somme in 1916 while serving with the Grenadier Guards. Private Vincent Furlonger was just 24 years old at the time of his death. He now lies at Surrey Road Cemetery No. 2, a solemn reminder of a family's repeated sacrifice across 2 world wars. 2 generations, 2 wars, 2 lives lost, but never forgotten. His family chose the personal inscription on his grave, "At Rest." The London Cemetery and Extension is more than just a place of rest. It's a silent witness to history, to the lives lost in the battlefields of the Somme and beyond. Today, we've uncovered the stories of 3 men buried here, each with their own journey, sacrifice and legacy. But they are just a small fraction of the thousands who remain nameless, their identities lost to time, but not their memory. If you found this video meaningful, please like, comment and subscribe to help keep these stories alive. And if you have a family member who served or is buried here, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear their story or possibly feature them in a future video. Thank you for watching, and as always, lest we forget. If you like listening to the stories of the history of those who came before, then please give the video a like and subscribe to keep updated about future videos of the history of those who came before.